Okay, we will call this meeting the Racial Equity Policing Commission meeting, Thursday, September 12th, 2024. We call this meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. We'll start with roll call of commissioners online. To make it easier, I will just say your name and just make yourself known. Okay, I'm just reading off my list here. Commissioner Raimondo.
Yes, I'm present. Chloe Raimundo.
Okay, Commissioner Ullman. Oh, perfect. Okay, Commissioner Ullman's here. Commissioner Hinojosa.
Here.
Commissioner Wessel.
I am present.
Commissioner Summerfield.
Here.
And Commissioner Kavapali.
Here.
Okay, and then commissioners in the room, go.
Commissioner Deidre Taylor.
Commissioner Katie Grant.
Commissioner Satine.
Next, and then we'll have everyone else go around the room. Michelle Mooney, Impact Manager, Salt Lake City Mayor's Office.
Chief Mike Brown. Lieutenant Andrew Duff. Lieutenant Jared Gilbert. Damien Shore, Chief Impact Officer. Jason Mulroy with Salt Lake City Attorney's Office.
I'm just gonna borrow you. Maria Romero, Executive Assistant.
Detective Mark Groff.
Alice Smith, Executive Assistant.
And we also have Nancy Cantor, our League of Women Voters Observer, present. Okay, starting with open dialogue. During this portion of the meeting, commissioners may raise topics and discuss current events that may impact or influence the commission's overall work, discussions and deliberations, to provide recommendations to the mayor and city council regarding the Salt Lake City Police Department's policies, budget, and culture. No action will be taken during this section of the meeting. Matters discussed during this section of the meeting may be scheduled on a subsequent agenda for follow-up. Are there any items for open dialogue? Commissioners.
I guess I would have a question. If Chief Brown, could you please walk us through the this whole transition to the commanders, from captains to commanders?
Commissioner, repeat your question real quick.
All right, so the command structure at Salt Lake PD has changed from captains, that I understand it was merit-based, to now commanders in charge of divisions. Could you walk us through the thought process around that?
Yeah. Sorry. That is something that we've been working on for quite some time. The whole premise for this is to build more accountability and responsibility at the commander level. Yes, Commissioner, you're right. This is an at-will appointed position. It really looks to taking policing where it needs to be. We kind of, in policing, as you know, we don't like change very much. The command structure we've had for many, many years, probably since the 90s. And so this is taking policing into the 21st century, having a command structure, an administration that is modeled much more efficient, more like a Fortune 500 company around theirs. And so we now have 8 commanders in place. And tonight, because Andy Clough, Lieutenant Andy Clough, has served very well as the XO, he is being promoted to commander. This will be his last meeting. His replacement will be Lieutenant Jared Gilbert. And he will take over Andy's footsteps and do a fantastic job, but I really want to tell everybody and all the commissioners, Andy has done a fantastic job here. The attention to detail is his thing. He's very responsible, and for meeting him, and I want to tell you thank you. You've served us, myself, and this commission very well. So thank you. Does that help you, Commissioner?
Yeah, I was just kind of wanting to know kind of the steps, what your process was, because it kind of got made public, and then within 2 or 3 days there were kind of interviews taking place. Everything just moved really quickly since it was something you'd been planning for a long time. The publication side of it was kind of less than a week. So you just kind of walk us through the process of how that transition took place.
Well, I worked with our HR partners, I worked with our legal team. It didn't transpire within a week. There was many meetings to get the job description and what we expected at this rank, to get the FTEs approved. Once they were approved, we asked the 8 existing captains and the other 10 people that were on the captain's list. So we actually interviewed 18 individuals for this job. So there were a lot of interviews that took place, a lot of conversation about making sure we get the right people in the right spot that have the skill sets to do the job we need. And for that, and Lieutenant Clough, now soon to be on Sunday, Commander Clough, he will be assigned to the Pioneer Division. Bill Manzanares will be assigned to Central. Commander Van Dongen will be Liberty. Commander Alan Sweeney will be over investigations. Commander Scott Small will be over special operations. A new commander position within the department is Commander Derek Diamond. He'll be over vulnerable people division, which is all of our mitigation, our social workers, our HRCs, everything that we do to reach out and help people, to provide services, will be under one shop now. And I think it's a much more efficient model. And then out in the airport, Commander Todd Mitchell, I think many of you probably met Todd. He'll be the new commander out of the airport.
Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm being interrogating. It kind of took us by surprise. So I just kind of wanted to know what the process was.
Yeah.
Thank you for the information.
And I forgot, Commander Charlie Goodman will be in administration. And she'll do a fantastic job there. So we're really excited. There's a lot of excitement within the department. There's a lot of movement. People are very excited.
I have a question about that, just piggybacking off of Commissioner. You mentioned a Fortune 500 company, or like the way corporations are set up, where you have a president or a chief financial officer, you have a vice, and then you have all these other vice presidents, and then everybody you just listed the names of the 8, sounds like commanders going across. So real fast, just you at the top, deputy to the side, and then the commanders all report to you, or is there a layer between?
Yeah, no, good question. There's the chief at the top.
Right.
And we had 4 deputy chiefs. We're only gonna have 3. We feel like it's a better model, a little leaner, more accountability. There seemed to be some duplication in efforts, because one commander would have Liberty and Central divisions of patrol, the other would have Pioneer and Airport. One commander now will have all of patrol. So it's a little leaner model, and then the 8 commanders will be underneath them.
Okay, that makes
Good
sense.
question.
Mhm.
If you'd like, I can bring a by sometime and introduce you.
Oh, I love that,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any other items for open dialogue? We will move into our public comment section. Nancy, do you have anything for us? As the only guest from the public. And I do want to, share that Commissioner Barbara Ron also entered the space. So she is present for the record as well. We'll move into approval and adoption of the minutes for July 2024. Is there a motion to approve and adopt the minutes?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Durante, second by Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor, if you are on camera, please raise a hand so we can do this ethically. And everyone, if you guys, all in favor, just raise your hand in person and online. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, that looks like all are in favor. So none opposed. We will approve and adopt the July 2024 minutes. There will be a change to the agenda, SLCPD will be going next before, our OPMA refresher, so we'll pull up those slides. Interesting. I'll pull that one up.
And while we're playing that, Commissioners, I have another engagement at 6 o'clock, but Andy and Jared and Mike Croft will stay here for their presentations. And, like I say, Andy, thank you for being on the mission. We'll bring you back, okay? All right. Thank you again.
We got fancy today. We got mics. Sometimes they make an appearance, sometimes they don't. I think it's just the room, so I got a request because they can't really hear us. Right. But I feel like it's just the room. That other room downstairs, we might be switching, but they were under renovation.
Well, if you can't get mine up, it's just a couple slides, and
Yeah.
honestly, I can just discuss it,
Oh,
and you can bring
it's
it up.
right here. Sorry, I have to just share it. I don't have to leave. And congrats, by the way.
Thank you. That's the one. All right. So thanks for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it. Michelle had mentioned that there was a question about House Bill 261 and how that might affect some of our recruitment and hiring practices at Salt Lake. So I kind of wanted to go over that just a little bit. For those who don't know, House Bill 261 restricts and prohibits a lot of the use of the diversity, equity, and inclusion when it's mainly specifically talking about the public education system and private education system. However, it does have prohibitions for government entities as well. The ones that specifically relate to the police department are those that are on the screen. Just the prohibited discriminatory practices means engaging in or maintaining a policy, procedure, practice, program, office, initiative, or requiring training that's based on an individual's personal identity characteristics. Those characteristics being race, sex, ethnicity, social status, things of that nature. So as far as our hiring and recruiting practices, HB 261 doesn't really impact the police department. We're trying to recruit and hire as many people as we can from as many diverse ethnicities and populations as we can. Honestly, we used to get hundreds and hundreds of applications. Now we're just happy to get 100 or 150 if we can. The interest has really dropped a lot. So we don't restrict anyone from applying. And really our recruiting aims at getting anybody who might be interested in law enforcement to apply to the program. And then obviously they have to go through a rigorous background investigation and training to be able to get through the application process. So really, HB 261 does not affect our practices in that manner. If you go to the next slide, I can show you currently we're staffed at 584 officers, and that's out of 608 authorized. So we're down 30 officers. Still continuing to hire. We have a class coming on in 2 days, 14 recruits. There will also be 2 laterals as well in that class. But so we're making headway. We'll be down to 16 vacancies by the end of this week, and then hopefully by January, we'll hire another class of 25 officers who are currently in the application process. And we'll be able to get into our unfunded staffing, so above that 608 mark. So we will be hopefully fully staffed by the beginning of 2025. Again, with the caveat that once these officers get into training, it's a 10-month program process to get them through our academy training, and then out into our field training officer program. So really, it's about a year before we'll see those officers actually impacting the streets on their own and engaging with our communities without somebody right there next to them watching everything they do. And you can see just a quick breakdown of the little snippet I included there. Each of those classes, 160, 167, and their expected street date. So we have 169 that has come out or is coming out in November on the 11th. And then 171 will complete their academy training in March of next year. They'll be through field training and back out onto the streets on their own around the May, June timeframe. So if you go to the next slide, really where we will see the biggest impact for HB 261, and this is something I want to update you on as well anyway, it will be those community presentations that the rep has put forward. We're still pushing forward with that. However, there were some legal concerns from the city about the title of the community presentations because it had a caveat or an addition on there that said community presentations and diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Those last 3 words are specifically prohibited by 261 because we're making that mandatory for each of our officers to go through. So our request to allocate the funds for those community presentations was pulled from the budget amendment. However, it wasn't pulled indefinitely. We're gonna talk to our legal partners and through the city, we'll be able to change the title of just to community presentations, hopefully, or something along those lines, and then we'll be able to put that budget amendment forward to reallocate those funds. We're still totally planning to have true empowering and legal equity advocates be a part of that RFP process. The only thing we'll have to change with the RFP is to note that they will have to be compliant with HB 261 so that we don't have to worry about it butting up against the House bill again, and we can proceed forward with those trainings. We did get a lot of feedback from officers and from those who were able to attend the training for Equality Utah. Overwhelming or resoundingly, it was well received. There were no issues with the training. It didn't impact 261 at all with diversity, equity, and inclusion. All it informed our officers was about our LGBTQ plus community, how we can better engage with them, and some better ways to communicate with them. So it really was a good training. Our hats off to Olivia Jaramillo and how well she presented that for our department. So we would love to continue moving forward with the other community-based trainings. It just may take a little time so we can get these changes in place and then start the RFP process once those funds are allocated. Any questions on that?
I do have a question, Commissioner Taylor. I appreciate, if you could go back, I think it's 2 slides back. Yeah, there. You mentioned that this House bill doesn't impact the hiring practices. You mentioned trying to recruit from any community. Coming from more of a place of a person in the community, that bill almost, to me, and I could be wrong in my interpretation, almost sounds like you can't use, I guess maybe it's language, is it language?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't use language that implies you're trying to recruit
From a
from
specific
any,
community or population, yes.
okay, from a specific,
Yeah.
okay, but when
it
it's
doesn't
just,
enable us to recruit openly.
okay. Okay, I was curious about that because it almost, like, that's good on your part, but I just wondered, like, wait a minute, but doesn't that bill, or, so you just use language that's just inviting or welcoming to all people?
Exactly.
Okay.
Good question.
I actually also have a question. Given that this bill is making us that we're going to change the name of the diversity, equity, training practice, I was wondering what name that you're thinking of giving as the new title.
I think we would just shorten it to community presentations for police training.
And that the police department is not going to judge the hiring process by any certain ethnic minorities or any kind of identity characteristic. Does that mean that the police department is no longer taking data from that? Are we no longer going to have statistics or information on the demographics of the police department?
No, the House bill specifically doesn't stop us from tracking all of that information. It just specifically prohibits us from engaging in practices that discriminate against a particular class or ethnicity or status.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you.
And, sorry, were you all able to start the video training with Chief Hunt?
Not yet, to my knowledge, it should department-wide. We recently, with the changing of the commander, the captains to commanders, we had a change in our training staff as well. So I will get with the new commander over training and make sure that that goes out.
It was a great video. I will give it to you all for the flash drives, and I'm not being enough space for this high quality video, but you all will get to see.
No, it's very well done. It's
It's
professional.
It's really good. So, okay, thank you.
No problem. And then we have here Detective Mike Ruff, who's gonna discuss our Explorer program. That should be on the second email I sent you, sorry.
Did it just come through?
It's also very
If you can share it, I can share it out. And do we know how much funding that is? The community fund? I'm sure it's in the reports, but I don't know off the top here.
To,
All the trainings combined,
all of them combined was.
like $240,000.
Yeah.
And I did wanna make that note that it was never a DEI training, never. From the phase one report, it's a community-based presentation on the history of policing with communities of color. So once you all get to see Chief Han's video, it really does open up what we're talking about in that sense. So that language has never been in these reports. So if it's been translated back, it's always been community-based presentations with a purpose and goal, just so all the commissioners are aware. Okay, cool. Yeah, yes, I got the first one. It's pretty long.
That's not huge.
If it comes through, then at least I can send it out.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for all having me. My name is Mike Ruff. I have been over the Explorer program for 6 years now. I've actually been invited for 8 years, so I've been involved with it for a long time. So just tell you a little bit about it. The PowerPoint's probably too large to go through, but we'll get it to you later. But let me kind of tell you that an Explorer is a member of our community who is the youth between the ages of 14 and 21. So we recruit them from wherever they want to come from. There's no requirement that they live in Salt Lake City. Currently, I have Explorers who live as far south as Saratoga Springs that are driving up. The captain of our program, which recently decided to go to college at Utah State, she's driving back from meetings every Tuesday to come right down because she won't stop. So we don't have a geographic boundary. They come and they receive training every week. A lot of times it's police related, but we also do a lot of life skills training, resume building, interview skills, and things like that. It's set up just like the police department. It's based off of our policies. So we have a policy manual that's about 70 pages long that is based off the department's policies. So it's kind of like a mini police department. The training we give is based off of the training that's given in the academy. We just change it for our audience. So they do a lot of stuff in the classroom, but we also do a lot of scenario-based training, and then we also do community events. So if you show up at the marathon, 24th of July parade, you'll see them in the light blue uniforms. Those are the sports that are there on volunteer time. Currently, we're at about 2,900 hours that they have volunteered this year, and currently have 28 sports. We'll get into that here in a minute. So the idea being we want to and get some of these folks to the academy, and we have, but it's not just about that. We also want to get people that are, we have to give them better chances in their life. One of our recent explorers actually went on to the Navy, and she just sent a email to us saying, I just finished my 4-year commitment. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this program. I was headed down the wrong path with kids that were leading me the wrong way, and the program saved me and saved my life, and thank us for going there. So to us, it doesn't matter if they go to law enforcement, if they go other places, we just want to give them better skills and produce better people, so. To be an explorer, we have to be between 14 and 21, we won't recruit anybody that's hit their 20th birthday because it takes too long to get them up to speed by the time they age out, so they age out on their 21st birthday. They do have to have parental approval if they're over 18, exhibit good moral habits and pass background check, so they get access to our building. So once they're off probation, they actually get an access card, they can use the gym during certain hours, so they have to be background checked every year. It does fall under scouting, so it's part of scouting, and always has been, so we have all of the youth protection that falls underneath that. We have a Slack message channel, all of them that has more than one adult advisor on, we don't ever have more than, there has to be at least 2 of us with them at all times, so there's a lot of things there with that background as well. If they are still in high school age, they have to be more than high school or graduated from high school, and they have to turn in every report card to us to make sure that they still have 2 GPA. So we want to offer them help. It's not just about, okay, you have to do 2.0. If somebody's struggling, come to us, we'll be happy to try to help you. We have other people that can help you. We don't want anybody suspended from that program. So we hold meetings every Tuesday. You're always welcome to come. If you want to come to a meeting, we're usually the public safety building. We're there from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. every Tuesday. They have to make at least 80% of the meetings unless they have an excuse. I am the only one that can actually say this is a valid reason for you not to be here. Usually when they're missing, it's because they're either doing high school stuff or we do training every meeting. Oftentimes that is PowerPoint training, but we recently just did 3 weeks of teaching them how to clear a building and do traffic stops. So we will actually hopefully roll into doing some active shooter response training here in the next few weeks if we can find a way to do it in. That's our hardest thing right now, is finding a place that we can do it in. But we try to make it active and use airsoft guns and basically teach them what we do. Also teaching them the same things that we would teach a civilian in terms of that response. So I'm one of the trainers for the civilian active shooter response training, so I can actually incorporate that and do that in the classroom setting. We do physical fitness almost every meeting, so the last hour is physical fitness training. We don't require them to pass a physical fitness test, but they get one from times a year, and it's the same test that's given to officers when they get hired. We give them those standards and say, hey, this is what we want you to shoot for, but all we require is improvement. So if we did 1 push-up last time we did it, we'd like at least 2 this time. We're not actually looking anybody out, we do track to see if there's improvement. There's lots of scenario training. You'll see some of this when you get the PowerPoint or some photos of your training we do. We get the bomb squad comes out and puts them in the suit, blows things up for them. We have the executive protection detail comes in, public order units come in. We try to get as many of the different units to come in and teach so that they're getting it from these experts. Our social workers actually come in once every other month and do training based towards them for how to deal with stress as a teenager, how to deal with schools. That's been really, really well received. So they come in every other month and teach that. So we try to find every little piece of the department, we give them a chance to come in and work about that. They do firearms training like once a year. We do some very long training with them so they can be familiar with firearms and get to shoot. That's usually a fun thing. We have some kids who never touched a gun but want to, and that's okay too. We give them those options, and that's one of those all hands on deck to make sure we can do it safely, teach them how to safely handle a gun in case they happen to find one. Hey, what do you do with this? Don't touch it, leave it alone, things like that. And then the community events. So there's all kinds of those. That's one of our biggest things, and that's actually what the kids love most. So just coming up in 3 weeks, we have LDS General Conference. We actually help the motor squad with that. So I have kids that work 22 hours in 2 days for no day out there helping direct traffic because they love it. They have fun with it. They do also the Missing in America project, which is getting veterans like the rest who have not been claiming mortuaries. They help with that every year. They help with all of our pay it forward events. They go shopping with the kids. That's the stuff that they really love. And then there's some other fun things after those as well. They help Halloween Fun Fest, you should see if we come over to that, we have a booth over there. They also get to go to a camp. So because we're part of scouting, they give us access to a camp every year with other explorers. This year we went down to Camp Tiki down by Mount Pleasant, and we're there for 3 days camping. So a lot of our kids, they've never been camping before, and they're out at 10 and interacting with other kids and doing scenario-based training as well as getting to do all the things that are at the camp. So that's a lot of fun. So that being said, now we can take those and where are they? So right now we have 8 former explorers that are officers in the department. 6 of those have come in the last 2.5 years. All of them are female, and one of them are Hispanic. So it's, our post has been predominantly female for years. It's usually about 60-65% female. Right now, my captain, my lieutenant are both female. That's kind of also been historically the case. We also have 2 explorers that are currently working as community response specialists on PCRT. One of them will eventually be an officer, he just isn't old enough yet, so he's working as PCRT until he turns 21. So we've got that great avenue to get people into the department, and it's a great early way for us to teach them. One of the things the academy says is it's great when they get in there because they've already kind of learned the good culture parts of the department. They don't have to teach them some of that stuff. They're the ones that are going to pick people up when they're running slow. They understand some of that stuff before they get in there, so they like doing this. So currently we have 20 explorers. Right now we're 9 female and 11 male. We just have a bunch of people, and we do recruit about once every 6 weeks. I invite a bunch to come. They come to the meeting, see if it's something they really want to do. Fill out the background check, and we get them in pretty quickly. So again, it's almost 2,800 hours, 1,550 that's training, but 1,240 of those hours is your service. So marathon parades, things like that. That's it.
Demographics on this.
Yeah, we do right now. So of those 9, 5 Hispanic female and 4 Caucasian females, the males 4 Hispanic, 1 Latin, 6 Caucasian. So it's a pretty diverse bunch, always has been, and that's one of the best parts of that program is you got kids that are somebody from Saratoga Springs and somebody from Rose Park and somebody from Ogden who never would meet other than coming into this group, and they all become friends. They're going out to IHOP after the meetings and, you know, hanging out together, and it's one of the things that they tell me they love is they've met people who they never otherwise would meet, and they become friends for a long time. So it's kind of an overview. If there's questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'm curious about this firearm thing, that kids that young, how do you even, like, what are the logistics? I'm assuming you take them to a fire range, but how do you even set that up? Like, you start with parents, like, how does that run?
So it's a multi-week thing. So we actually have one of the advisors is one of our lieutenants who actually is a firearms instructor. He was the sergeant over my unit when I first came into it, so he stayed on. He's a firearms instructor, so he starts out in the classroom. So we start out in the classroom for 3 hours. We go over a PowerPoint and then we use what we call blue guns, so they're the big guns that don't have any ability, they're just rubber. And we work on everything there. And then when we work up to the range, we actually spend about the first hour with nothing in the guns, they're empty, when they're the wall, but there's also one advisor for every explorer that actually has to do that. So it's just a one-on-one thing. We're in our range out of Pioneer that we have, so we have 5 people up, and it's literally 1 officer with 1 explorer, so that we can very slowly, they don't shoot a lot. It's usually 10 to 20 rounds over the course of those couple hours, but just a familiarization with all of us who have obviously been doing this for a long time, so they can be safe, but also get the idea of how to handle this. We do a lot of training when we do the scenarios with the blue guns. We force them to treat those guns like they're a real gun. So if they point that at somebody they're not supposed to, they're going to push ups. There's consequences in the program, so we call them infractions. They get inspection, their uniform every week. One of the parts of those inspections is that they have to recite firearm rules every week. They probably know firearm rules and our core values better than all of our officers do, to be honest. And if they don't answer it right, the whole post gets a physical punishment that they pick. That's their position, what it is. That's that reinforcement to make sure we keep them safe.
That's impressive.
I have a question that's related, but, how often do you do a citizen police academy for adults?
So that's something that would fall under training. So, and it's been a while since we've done that. I don't know if you have an answer on
No, those have kind of fallen off of the radar since COVID. They stopped doing those whenever we went to lockdown for the pandemic. They talked about renewing that with our training staff doing 3 and potentially more, just our recruit academies. It's become very difficult to start doing some of those other trainings with the citizen academy as well. We have talked about it, and we would like to bring it back, really effective for our communities to know what we do and how we do it and why we do it. I'll definitely have to get a training on that and see if we can get a date locked up in the future. Potentially invite somebody in, which would be great.
That'd be great.
that. And one thing I probably failed to mention that I should have is the program is a cost of living for these kids. So right right now, we're running mostly off donations from the foundation and from other places, and so we provide the uniforms, we take care of fees. About the only thing we've asked for in pastures was half of the camp registration fee when we go to that camp. This year, the foundation offered to pay for the things, they didn't have to pay for that, but we believe that the uniforms and all that shouldn't be a hindrance to somebody coming, and if there's something like we require them to get boots, if they come to us and say, hey, we can't afford those boots, all they have to do is write me, I'll find the money to get it, or we have some for us. We don't want that to be a hurdle for somebody not to be in the program.
I'm glad you mentioned budget, because when we met a year ago, I shared with you about the commission. And commissioners, you all know you have a budget that can go towards any goals related to the commission's work and also enhancing SLCPD. This area with the Police Explorers program truly does seem like it aligns with the mission, especially with who they recruit through the program. And I know you talked about some other Police Explorer programs during our conversation and how we can do some good things, and finances and budget are always a big thing, so if there were any requests or things that the commissioners can help you think through, or you can help them think through more so, please let them know.
And right now, I use one of my other hats on our public relations unit, I'm one of the full-time public information officers. I also host the Explorer, so something else that we don't have is a dedicated person that can be there. I'm there, but it's not like my full-time job. There's nobody else that does that. We rely a lot on our advisors to adjusting their schedules, things like that. The department's very good about making sure they can adjust. But there's always more things you can do with more money. I think it's one of those recruiting avenues going forward, having done a lot of recruiting. The earlier you can get people, and also, even if it's not a recruiting avenue, we have relationships that are opened up within the community that we don't otherwise have. We had an explorer several years ago. Unfortunately, she died by suicide. Her family was very anti-police. It was very interesting at her funeral to see half of that church filled with police officers and explorers, because that had been broken down. And if it wasn't for the explorers, I don't think that ever would have happened, because we were able to get to know her, she was able to get to know us, and that really made a difference. It's been like that with several. One of our officers is now an officer, was an explorer, her family was the same way. And she said, you know what, I'm gonna join this program. She actually became a captain. We've had a couple of those stories. So it's great that we can get into meeting people. And I'll tell you, if I take the explorers from an event, I don't have to say anything. People won't come talk to me, I'll talk to them. They are the ones that, regardless of what community event it is, they see 16, 17, 18-year-old kid in uniform, they want to talk. And it's a great starting point for us. So.
Thank you. It'll just be the training.
I'll make sure I make that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Nice to meet you all.
Okay, let's try to give Jason some of his time with the open public meetings at annual training refresher, so I'll take the floor to you.
Appreciate the chance to be here with you today. We're going to do our annual public meetings training. This is, just before we start, I just want to kind of discuss a little bit kind of the overall theme of what we try to do with regard to open public meetings training. The general principle is that we want our city business conducted in a way that is as open and transparent as possible, in a way that provides notice to the citizens and to the populations that may want to attend the meetings, so that they know exactly what's on the calendar, and so they can provide them input, have their voice heard. So as we go into that, typically what we want to do as we start out is we need to run through the definitions of just kind of what a meeting is and how it works. The legislature changes a couple aspects of the meeting training process pretty much every year. But what we've got is we have a meeting as a convening and release the quorum of the committee for the purpose of discussing, receiving comments from the public about, or acting upon a matter over which the committee has jurisdiction or advisory power. So they did make some changes with regard to some of the specifics as to what would be considered a public body and what would be considered a meeting. This committee would be considered a public body, and essentially what they say is when you were holding the meeting, when you were convening to discuss the public business or the focus over which you have authority, you'd be in a meeting format. However, if you're meeting for more of a social purpose or just had a chance meeting, in those types of instances, you don't have to worry about Open Public Meetings Act requirements. So if we go into the process with regard to the notice of the meetings, what we try to do is we try to give at least, we're legally required to give at least 24 hours notice of each meeting that we hold unless it's an emergency meeting. As part of that process, we need to include in the notice the agenda of the meeting, the date, the time, and the place of the meeting. And fairly recently, there were some changes made to just where exactly the notice is posted. What we need to do now as a capital city, we need to post notice on the city's official website, on the Utah Public Notice website. And we also need to post our meeting notices in a public location within the city that's reasonably likely to be seen by residents of the city. I think in a lot of instances we post here on the board in the principal office. In addition to that, we're also encouraged to use our creativity. If we find other ways to give notices or ways to make sure that the public's aware of it, we can go ahead and do that as well. Now, we do have an exception for emergency meetings. If something were to come up where you needed to meet quickly, we wouldn't need to give the public notice in those instances. However, what we are asked to do is we try to give the best notice practical of the time and place of the emergency meeting and the topics to be considered. We're not able to hold an emergency meeting unless the committee attempts to contact all of the commissioners, and the majority of the committee members need to approve holding the meeting before we actually hold it. With regard to the agendas, really what we're trying to do is we want enough specificity in our agendas so that a member of the public that looks at the agenda will have a reasonable understanding of what is going to be on the agenda. And if they want to contribute or participate in the meeting, they'll have to notice. We'll let them do that. So that's what we're trying to do with regard to that. If there's something that we want to consider that is not on the agenda, typically we're not able to consider that in a lot of detail. If a member of the public brings an issue up for consideration, the chair has the discretion to allow discussion of that item, but we can't actually vote on it or take any substantive action until a subsequent meeting when we've had a chance to put it on the agenda. The general standard is that the meeting is open to the public unless it's closed. So the vast majority of the meetings that we hold will be open meetings. There are some purposes for which meetings can be closed, some of which would be to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual. Another item that may come into play on occasion is if we are discussing essentially security measures and precautions and things of that nature as well. So those are a couple of things that could come up. Another issue is if you ever need legal counsel, you can go ahead and close the meeting, have an opportunity to share legal concerns with counsel. So those are some of the ways or some of the reasons for which we might be closing a meeting. If we do that, there's a process for doing so. So we need to start first with an open meeting so that everyone's aware that we are intending to close the meeting. When the open meeting is in session, then 2/3 of the committee members would need to vote to close the meeting. And it would need to be for a discussion of a subject matter that's appropriate for closing the meeting. Something like a character or professional competence type issue or receiving the accounts. If the meeting is closed, then the following information needs to be publicly announced and entered into the minutes. We need to announce the reasons for closing the meeting, the location of where that closed meeting is going to be held, and the vote by name of each committee member who voted either for or against the motion to close the meeting. Typically what we'll do is we will go ahead and close the meeting and have the vote just immediately prior to actually holding the meeting. So it'll typically be in the same location. We just make sure that it's a closed setting. With regard to the records of the meetings that we hold, typically what we do is we keep both a written minutes and a recording of the meetings. The written minutes are actually the kind of the long-term official record that will be kept in perpetuity as we go forward. Either the written minutes or the recording can be adequate. if what we're doing is a site visit or we're actually traveling or looking around somewhere, oftentimes what happens, we'll do a tour of a building, something like this. In those instances, we don't need to keep both the written minutes or the recording. However, the only way that we can actually take a vote or an actual action during that site visit or that traveling meeting is if we are taking both the recording and the minutes. So, and with regard to the timing of when we make those, our minutes, our records available to the public, within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, the committee needs to make the audio recording of the open meeting available to the public. Within a reasonable time after holding the open meeting, we need to make the pending minutes, the draft minutes, available to the public. And once we've actually approved those minutes, the written minutes, then within 3 business days, we need to make those approved minutes available to the public. So that's 3 business days from the point at which we actually approve the minutes. So the ones we approved today will be available within 3 days. With regard to the record in a closed meeting, we do keep a recording of the closed meeting, and we can keep detailed written minutes that disclose the content of the closed meeting, but we don't have to keep the written minutes. Now, there are two categories when we're discussing character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, or when we're discussing deployment of security personnel devices and systems. We don't need to actually keep a record of the meetings, either written or recording, but what would happen in those instances is that the chair would sign an affidavit indicating that that was the only subject matter that was discussed in those meetings. Typically, the closed minute, the records of the closed meetings are protected records that generally would be disclosed under grant law. And then we have our electronic meetings, which post-COVID have been particularly effective and useful. It's, I love the fact that we can actually get everyone together and have an opportunity to do an electronic meeting so that everyone can participate as we go through with that. So we've got a resolution rule or ordinance that will allow us to hold the closed meeting, the electronic meeting, too much closed meeting talk. But with the electronic meeting, what we need to do is we need to have an anchor location, like what we have right here, that provides a location where the public can be present and listen and participate in the meeting. We also can make give the public access electronically as well, so they can participate electronically in the meetings. Just the last couple of things as we're getting close to wrapping up. Thanks for your patience regarding these. So electronic messages is something that's relatively new. We don't have anything in the code that would prohibit a committee member from using electronic communications to send messages that deal with the business that's being discussed. However, please recognize that those electronic messages will likely be considered public records that could be requested and would need to be provided pursuant to a grant request or something. With regard to disruption of the meetings, if there is a significant disruption, the Open and Public Meetings Act doesn't prohibit the removal of persons from the meeting if they're willfully disrupting it. And finally, just a little bit about the consequences for violating Open and Public Meetings Law. Typically, the consequence for a violation is whatever the action was taken can be nullified if there was a violation of the Public Meetings Law. There's a very short time period for doing so. Typically, the lawsuit would need to be filed within 90 days of the date in which the action was taken. There also is just, with regard to the closed meeting provisions of the Act, there's a Class B misdemeanor penalty that can be imposed on the committee member if they knowingly and intentionally try to circumvent or violate the closed meeting provisions. So we would just, suggest and encourage you not to intentionally and violate the Open Public Meetings Act provisions that we have there. Typically, I think the city makes a real effort to function in a way that is open to the public, that we appreciate the public's involvement, comment, and transparency. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them. Thanks for listening to me. I know this is not always the most exciting portion of the day.
Any questions?
And thanks so much for your time. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jason.
Have a good evening.
It's always nice to see you once a year.
Oh, thank you. I
Yes, I
appreciate
know.
it.
Good to see you. Okay, we will move to the upcoming items, so we'll start with the working group updates, and then we'll have Commissioner Sakini, and then I'll end with the annual end of year report. So Commissioner Taylor, go ahead with those updates.
Okay, so the working group, that I was on, or that I am on, is the group that is seeking to come up with some type of survey for the Salt Lake City PD. And we had a few items we wanted to, work on. One of those was just finding out if other police departments around the country have taken any surveys like this, and just to get an idea, not too deep of a dive, but just kind of on the surface level, find out if any of the police departments have done this. The second part of this was I wanted to learn more about an organization that my part-time employer used for their employees. And I recently participated in a survey that is known as a cultural competence survey. And the survey is more, I took it myself, and it really, the types of questions that were asked loan themselves more to, hey, if you're in a situation, how will you respond? And it's more about your understanding of if you meet someone who is different than you, what is your understanding culturally? We live in a very diverse society, and I thought that the questions were good. For me, I wasn't able to have the one-on-one, what do they call it? The one-on-one, I have it written here, debrief, but I am tomorrow. So I wasn't able to get it scheduled before tonight's meeting, so I'll be able to elaborate more on what that one-on-one debrief is like with this organization, IDI. They'll do a survey for you. You have to hire a qualified administrator, and they give you the option of doing a big group debrief or an individual debrief. And with the different conversations that I've had, one with a qualified administrator and one with a woman named Emily who works for IDI, it was explained to me that for a group as large as, say, the Salt Lake City PD, you would need more than one administrator to help with the work. You don't hire just one, you might hire three. And the survey is really good for just enlightenment. It just really gives you insight into yourself. It like I said, it's for cultural competence. And so there are several options there, and you know, if you want more information about this organization, I know I provided a link, but I can always email out a link to the organization and what they offer, their pricing. But again, the main thing is, as a commission, if this was something that we would utilize, we would have to hire a qualified administrator, maybe 3. We would have the option to do a group debrief or individual debrief. You could do both. It was suggested to me that it's best to do individual. When groups are really large, you might lose something because you have to generalize the information. Whereas an individual debrief is better just for the person to learn, like, oh, okay, I took this survey, this is what I learned about myself. And also that it's really important to understand that this particular survey is about cultural competence. And I think it's definitely compliant with the House Bill 261 that we have to be mindful of. But those are 2 of the things that we discussed in my working group. I don't have much feedback yet on other police departments doing this survey, or any survey of its kind. I just got the name of a gentleman who administers this specific survey to a police department in Canada. And there's more research that can be done on that. His name was Hamlin Grange. And I'm sorry that, that was the information I got, so you can let me know if you have any questions about it.
Thank you for that. I just remembered, we had a discussion about, some of the folks that were on that meeting to follow up and talk to other police departments,
Right.
and I totally dropped the ball. So I was like, yeah, we have some time.
We have some time.
So I just remembered, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to call.
Okay, this is how it's showing, a PDF.
I feel like Zoom, should I, do you want me to go ahead and get started?
Yeah.
Did anybody else have a comment before I get started on this presentation?
On the implicit bias survey, committee group, some of the police departments that I saw used a resource called Justice Navigator. I could send along the information that comes with, but I did receive an email a few days ago that said that our subcommittee was being put on pause. I am not sure about the details as to for how long or why that is, but I just felt I should share that.
Yes, you can send me information, I guess, we can still do research, it's just on pause right now in terms of, like this, like, let's say you guys got the survey done tomorrow, like, we would not be able to do it tomorrow, but of course, you can still continue to research. So that does sound interesting if it's called Justice Navigator, so send it over to your subcommittee. And other than that, only the community listening sessions met as well, but with that subcommittee, they'll be starting those sessions next year. It'll just be better since the end of the year, we can see how we all get, right? So there's a lot to do. So that committee did meet as well, that subcommittee.
My comment is just, it's hard to move forward thinking about what we should select without having parameters set by legal to know like what types of questions we can focus on.
So the questions from the IPI inventory, it was like a sample, so it's not, if you all have questions, then I can send that to attorneys, but that was like 5, no, it was like 2 per category. And from that, they can tell that it does mean some of the questions can cause resentment, so I did give that committee the criteria, it just can't. The question you have to ask yourself is, does it cause anyone to have resentment? Does it promote differential treatment? And I think there's a good question, I can't recall, but I did send you guys a synopsis, that subcommittee of what the guidelines are. This is a new territory, so we can move forward, it's just, if you have specific questions, I can get that, but the inventory was very short, which I get why they can't give us all the questions, but.
And I'll probably have more insight on those questions tomorrow, because I'll have my own individual debrief done that I didn't get to take advantage of back in the spring, so, I'm assuming that in my personal debrief, I'll see how I answered the questions, and I'll be able to get that, a sample of all the questions that I answered.
Did that answer? So to be continued.
Yeah, we can talk about it more often.
Yeah. But, more research coming soon.
Yes.
Sorry, did anybody else have any comments? All right. So, I drafted this presentation together just, as like a refresher presentation, and I know we're, oh no, we're not out of time, we have time. We're out of here till 7. Okay, I was thinking, this, okay. But a little bit about this presentation, I just thought, for those who are new and for those who've been on the commission, just redirecting us to what our focus is on this commission, as the Salt Lake City Racial Equity Policing Commission, right? So these two, of course, high school students, you see they have the little police badge. It was at the Thompson Governor High School Conference, at the U. And we had an outreach event where we were able to distribute, some of the police badges, and it was fun to see the different reactions from the high school kids, and just trying to get, hopefully some traction with, some folks, getting interested with being part of the police force. So, go ahead, next slide. So again, the reason for this, there's a joint resolution, from May 25th, 2020, on behalf of George Perry Floyd, who died while in the custody of the Minneapolis Police Department. Whereas in the aftermath of Mr. Floyd's death, nationwide and in Salt Lake City, citizens have demanded that local governments address systemic racism in police departments and enact policies to establish racial equity in policing. So just to mention, of course, this is George Floyd, and all of this information is all on our website. And so this information wasn't recreated, and so I just want to clarify that as we move forward. And so bringing in understanding what is the REP Commission, we're here to examine Salt Lake City's police department's policies, culture, and budget, and any city policies that influence Salt Lake City Police Department's culture or policies. The commission is composed of individuals who represent a broad and diverse range of communities, expertise, and viewpoints in Salt Lake City. The commissioner's former core committee members were selected by the mayor and city council to lead in the structure of the commission. And they invited others to participate and to create the space for productive and inclusive discourse with the broad group of commissioners and the diversity of opinions therein. And so this photo is just the original folks that started and spearheaded the work. I think I could have got a better picture. I don't know, now I'm looking at it, it's kind of blurred. But we appreciate them and continue to support their work. Next slide. So, importance of understanding. So, of course, this is an ordinance in 10.6.020, and it talks about the purpose. Anybody want to read?
Or just paraphrase.
Yes, so, you'll see it's up in, A, she's talking about, compromise of diverse and varied groups, communities, and individuals, practice of discrimination in a public safety setting against these groups, communities, or individuals on the grounds of ancestry, national origin, or race adversely that affects the general welfare of the city and the vitality of the neighborhood. Then B is talking about the discriminatory practices, and we just want to make sure that we're looking at the systemic processes and trainings, and making sure that those practices don't have any discriminatory within the public safety realm. And then C, just again, creating the general purpose of advising the council and mayor on how to further the goal of eliminating racial discrimination in policy and practices within Salt Lake City. Next slide. Okay, and then, of course, we want to make sure that we are looking at our powers and duties, and what we should be working on. So, as you know, examining policies, cultures, and budget, making recommendations to the mayor and council. 2, engaging and interacting with the public to receive community input related to Salt Lake City Police Department's policy, culture, and budget. 3, evaluate and study national best practice policies for policing. 4, make recommendations to the mayor and council on a racial equity plan for the Salt Lake City Police Department. And 5, explore needs and make recommendations on how the Salt Lake City police department may increase diversity within its workforce. And then, of course, each of you know that the compensation we receive just for the service of being a commission member. And who is part of it? All of you, all of us, right? This is just a picture of us at our retreat. Again, a time just for self-care annually that we discussed to have, which is great, it's fun. And just remembering that there are 15 diverse members within our group that ties us to Salt Lake City, and it's led by a chair and a co-chair. And a vice chair, which is me. The mayor's office staff will assist the commission in its work, coordinate with city staff on commission requested research and information, help produce a final work product, and advise the city communications team on how to convey information in a transparent and accountable way. And of course, the contact information, which we're doing already. However, you know, there are times where sometimes public or others will bring other information to the table. And we always want to be respectful of the Salt Lake Police Department, their time, as well as our time. So just making sure that we stay mission focused on the work that we do. And then just to break it down, within those 15 members, we need to make sure that we represent what our city looks like. 4 of the 15 members should be between the ages of 16 and 21 at the time of their appointment to serve as youth representation. And 1 of the 2 need to be a member of the Human Rights Commission, which is me. And then how long are we serving? So we're looking at 2 years. You can extend, but you want to make sure that just looking at the guideline, that the initial term of the 6 members commission first appointed should be for 1 year and then staggered. And each membership expires the Monday in December. Vacancy, we want to make sure that if term expires or for any reason needs to reconsider, we need to make an appointment or just be mindful of trying to, I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to at least refer someone that we feel fit for this position. And that they would represent Salt Lake City as needed. And then our eligibility for membership, again, it kind of talks about what we did earlier, being 16 years of age. Members need not to be a resident of the city, but shall maintain strong ties to Salt Lake City. So I think that's important of checking in within our commission to make sure that we are representing Salt Lake City the best that we can. So there are times where folks do live outside of the city, but we want to make sure that the work that they are, that it's in the parameters of Salt Lake City, if that makes sense. And then our meetings, just remembering that of course we meet monthly, no less than quarterly. I think we did amend this, did we put in a vote, right? To change our meetings from monthly to every other month.
It's just expected, but we're not meeting less than quarterly, so we still,
Our
yeah.
meeting within the time.
Requirements, yeah.
Right. And then, of course, just remembering all of what we share, our recommendations to our mayor and the council, and remember to keep engaging with the different community groups that we do, and we are a representation of our city. Reviewing recommendation issued by the Human Rights Commission, which I think I probably could do better with sharing something from Human Rights Commission. Maybe we can talk offline on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yes.
And how the Human Rights Commission can support this commission. And then, civilian review board, I think we talked about that earlier, a structure where, to evaluate national models and make recommendations. We're right there. And remember to finalize recommendations for the mayor and the council. So a lot of advising recommendations, and having it recorded and written. And of course, all of these can be translated, there's definitions to the terms that are used in this slide. And then just remembering that Racial Equity and Policing Commission, that a well-functioning commission can significantly enhance the quality of life for residents by addressing their needs effectively. That was my 2 cents. Okay. And then, this is all within American Legal Publishing, finding the best practices, and just wanted to make sure that we're all aware and how we should be getting in touch as Michelle Mooney, our equity manager, continues to connect with us. Of course, you have our email, and you always have the website to reference to, in supporting our mayor and Raleigh Police Department. And that is the end. Any questions? Cool. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome. Just
I'll share this out too. Sometimes it's easier to have it in this form versus like reading an ordinance. And I think Commissioner Satini and I both agree that I know it feels like uncharted territories right now with everything going on, but the commission is still able to do this work. Like, the mayor's office truly believes this, they tell me this all the time. It's just we have to get creative in how we do the work with some things. So, my presentation, I know we've been on so many PowerPoints, but real quickly, because we do have to have this end of year report. So what that means is, so Lucia right now is serving as both. Commissioner Wessel on here has served as both before as well, before he came off the Human Rights Commission. We always have that because, like, think of the Human Rights Commission as like the parent to these other commissions, which is Racial Equity and the Accessibility and Disability Commission. So very important, because I do need your recommendations. We do vote at our last meeting. That Human Rights Commission meeting is on November 12th. Our commission meeting is on the 14th. Lucia has to go ahead and present all of your recommendations at that Human Rights Commission. That's the very last one. In order for you guys to vote and accept, they have to see it. It has to go before them. That's just how it's written in ordinance. So I wanna just review what you all, what the 2024 goals and priorities were. So continue working on outstanding goals and priorities from 2023. That was the implied bias survey, right, which is on a pause right now while we figure out the plan. With HB 261, this was prior to it passing, and the community-based trainings. That's the only 2 things left from the phase 1 report. This is where we all get creative. You all are new commissioners, phase 1 is fading away, this is phase 2, this is where new things come up. School resource officers have always been a goal. Chief already shared that this is completed, done, checked, they all have 10. The full 10 school resource officers team, which is good, it's the first, and I think since this started, they're reevaluating their MOU process, that's good for 3 years as well. So that is all good, and this will be an accomplishment for 2024. And this budgetary request for culturally responsive therapy for the victims and families impacted by negative police interactions, this was a lot already. So you all have accomplished this. What we need for 2024, it seems like we're gonna continue with the community listening sessions, getting that off the ground running. You all heard that was like number 2 in the powers and duties, to meet with the community and get that input. It's been 4 years now, 3 years since the commission was codified. So I think it is really for sure that needs to be like priority, just to get that community engagement. And then kind of playing around with, I know you all have attended SLCP's community meetings, which is only Latino Coalition right now. I can tell you for sure, they are having a difficult time getting the Black community, LGBTQ community, refugee, and I'm missing one. NHBI. Yes, NHBI, how can I forget that? Native Hawaiian, kind of that, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander used to be strong, very strong, and then they shifted from having, where they had kind of like a community member in the force to now a sworn officer leading it. Pros and cons, that did come from the commission, because when you're a sworn officer, you just kind of have that built-in rapport. So that's what they were looking at, but you have it within the system, but the community is a different thing, right? So this is where you all can play a big role. If you all have community members, or I know Commissioner Sassini has a community engagement, kind of recommendation that we're gonna try to work out for the commission. Again, you all have budget. You all have resources, so the only thing I need from you is what are you recommending? The Police Explorers program is one thing you all heard. A full-time employee has come from the commission before. One example is the full-time community outreach officer, as well as they hired a recruiter. That all came from recommendations from this commission. That's where I've seen like a decline. I don't know where it's been, but you all as commissioners, again, I just wanna empower you that these are things that all came from past commissioners, all of this. So this is just an example to show you what kind of recommendations are doable. I know sometimes we're trying to reach for the stars right now, and I think that's where frustration happens when we say local Salt Lake City Police Department, a lot of things can get done. Where there was over 100 recommendations from phase 1, we only have 2 left to complete in a span of 3 years. So this is great for the commission, but now we need more. Now we're kind of empty, right? Now we're stuck with where we're at, because we finished all of these things. So I just wanted to use this as a reminder for you all that I do need, I know I said I needed recommendations by August 30th, because usually I have a draft for you guys, but that's where we're at right now. So this report is solely up to you all. I cannot make recommendations on the commission's behalf, so however we need to get creative, if we need meetings in the next month, or if you just wanna workshop things one-on-one, we can do that, but we would need to finalize that before November 12th.
Is it possible to call a meeting for the month of October? To get that together?
Yes, would it be easier though, in our meetings, when we're in quorum, it has to be like this, open public, recording is on.
Oh,
If we're meeting in small groups,
okay,
That's
so we
kind
could meet back in a working group and come up with recommendations and send them over to you?
right,
Okay.
or partners, yeah,
Okay.
or everyone might have different interests, I think that's more helpful. All of these recommendations were really kind of individual, but of course you're all gonna vote on it, right, in the last meeting. And quickly, I do wanna add on, with community engagement, there is a United Against Hate League. This is by our community partners against hate. The Human Rights Commission is involved with this community partnership. I think it would kind of be great for the Racial Equity and Policing Commission if anybody can get involved. It's a monthly meeting, but they are focusing on Hispanic Heritage Month, right? So again, racial equity, this is focused on race. They're gonna do more of these quarterly meetings, community conversations. So I wanna invite you all to this. I can get this on your calendar as well. This is open to the public to attend. This community partnership, if you recall, is led by the United Jewish Federation, and I just lost my train of thought. But yes, they do focus on things, related to hate, race is part of that, but it's all identities, right? That are focused on this, and this partnership is really great. Some of the commissioners were part of the public service announcement that went out, and we are just trying to get the public more, I guess, more involved with hate crimes and hate crime reporting.
When is that event?
September 24th. So that's already on HRC's calendar, so I will get it to. And then one more, or well, 2 more things. Of course, you all are always invited to Human Rights Day celebration because it's led by the Human Rights Commission, so that'll be on December 12th. But one thing that is happening is with the district attorney's office, and these partners, they've been doing peacemaking circles, and it's a partnership between systems, more so government, right, and all of the systems that are within government and communities who take ownership and work through our differences to help young people, families and communities. This is think of it as so before this commission did used to get more involved with the courts. They used to have, I remember his name, but I think his name was Carlos Lugo come and talk about juvenile justice. That is all in the reins of, if it's related to policing, you all can get creative with that. That's why civilian review board is one thing, because it relates to policing. You all are invited to attend. I can send this to you. You would have to RSVP. It is a 4-day training. They work with day one, or day one, right? So this group is very passionate about criminal justice reform. Great that the district attorney's office is actually trying to take a more restorative justice approach to the way that clearly the justice system is. Fairly progressive, so it's gonna have its own hurdles, but to have that support of the commission, I know this is Salt Lake County, but again, it still affects SLCPD falls into Salt Lake County, so any arrest that they make go into this system. So this is mostly catered to juveniles and how we can change the trajectory of their lives by having them join peacemaking circles. I can send you the video, it's really good. In more progressive cities and states, they do focus on this partnership of, okay, so if somebody is serving time, right, a juvenile serving time, they can go before the judge and their attorney can say, this person has done 26 peacemaking circles. I've sat through this training, it's heavy, and really, I appreciate it, but this is like, some things people might consider this really hippie, but really it's just getting down to the core of the trauma that causes most crimes, or what we would think causes more crimes in communities, right? So clearly this heavily affects children of color, people of color, communities of color, so it does align, and I can only share so much about this circle. I think you all have to sit in it, but they are always looking for more community members to come. Like I said, they have formerly incarcerated individuals, they have the DA's office, they try to invite people from our government, on all levels, police. West Valley Police has been represented so far, which kind of they overlap more with the community that they're working with. But I have invited SLCPD, they couldn't make the last one, so Chief did say that he will try to get some officers to attend. The shift, I have to say, the shift in the officers from day one to the last day, like they come in all uniform, they're very, just reserved, like they tell you they're forced to be here. And by the end, they're coming in regular clothes and they dive deep. They will share their stories with you in those circles. Clearly that's a safe space, but it's just life-changing, I have to say. But I have always been about this. I've always been about dialogue and having conversations with people, building trust, restoring, healing, building community. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I'll be happy to
Who's
sit down.
spearheading this training?
The DA's office. So it's gonna be right at the district attorney's. I was told food will be covered, the first time it was, and the second time I said one of my colleagues, he said food wasn't. But I shared with them if there's any way we can support, we can partner. I think this is really great in terms of the greater goal. Like I said, this commission did have that line item. I think it actually is.
How long has the peacemaking circle been running?
Oh, this was a 2-year project. They've been having smaller circles and now I've just been pulled into it.
So it was a pilot 2 years ago, that was.
This is the pilot, but it's been a 2-year this has been a work in progress forever. It's this beautiful couple that saw this, actually a Caucasian couple that helps even bring just more depth to who cares about these issues. They saw this presentation in Toronto, Canada, of course, Force doing all the great things. They brought it back and they were like, I think they are former attorneys as well. They brought it to DA's office and they were all on board. They were all about it. And they actually do come and sit in the circles, the people who brought it here to Salt Lake City. And they were surprised that we weren't already doing something like this.
So is this open to the public or is it?
Yeah, they want community members, yes. So Day One brings their people in because they're serving as the mentorship. So we're trying out, so basically think of it like, the circles are meant for the juveniles, so they're gonna go to like Decker Lake, and it's supposed to be like, there's prosecutors, defense attorneys, all of the above, and you see all of these shifts, right? Like for prosecutors, they're like, now I see more past the child, right? Or,
Right.
yes, they see more past than their crime, right? Now they see the child for who they are, a child versus a juvenile, like that language change. So to see all of these people working together for the greater good is basically the Day One guys, they've been in gang life, all of this stuff from young ages. So they started this group to give back to their communities. It's heavily Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, we see it, you probably heard of that, yeah. So, this is the group that they pulled in, the DA's office. And now they're collaborating, and they'll tell you, they're like, wow, us sitting in the DA's office, we would have never thought about that, right? Because they're formerly incarcerated, so they're like, they dealt with these prosecutors and stuff. It's just a very, I think the mission behind it is great, to get support from the state, clearly because it will have to be a state thing, would probably be difficult, but the more support we can get community members involved, more people sitting in these circles, more people being in these spaces. Because it does take the community as well, but of course it's more led by government systems and the people.
So would you say it's like bridging the top and the bottom? That's what it sounds like, because you have DA's office there and then the juveniles.
No, the juveniles are not here yet, so that takes a whole nother level of
Okay, so
security,
this is the training for.
This is the training to prepare.
Okay, so that you can facilitate.
Yes, like we have monthly meetings, but you have to go through the original training first, and then you can, like, you can become a circle keeper, you can, so I see, Commissioner Guadarrama's question, so it's not, the ages that attend right now, it's just community members, so
Right.
you won't meet any youth in here right now. The purpose of it, I can send you the video, it makes a lot more sense, by seeing it's like there's a 17-minute video and an 80-minute one, but I showed it to my office, and I mean, I think it was touching, Maria can tell you otherwise, but, yes, mainly we do want every level of the system in it, right? The prosecutors and defense attorneys are only one step, who starts with it, right? PD, it's with the arrest. And you just have to kind of sit through it, because even the West Valley police officers that came, it's crazy, well, I guess it's crazy to me because I'm not from here, but they knew some of the Day One guys, and that was actually their officer that handled their case, and it's just like the prosecutor that put like someone's child away, it's just like the connections is just amazing, and we're all in the same space, right? Even though you put me away or you put my child away, and we're here talking about it.
You're
working through it, because we have to work through it in order to be better people. Prosecutors are just doing their job, right? Like that is what they're taught in law school, it's numbers, it's a numbers game. Do they know?
How many police officers are attending from Salt Lake City?
I don't know. West Valley only had officers, so there was my circle had 40 people. I think my colleague said the second circle had about that many people as well. Usually there's 4 or 5 officers, right now it's just West Valley Police that's been going. I invited SLCPD, this one I do need to get on their calendar ASAP, I'm sure Chief Brown will be supportive of sending people.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
Because it sounds like it would be parallel with our mission. Right?
yes,
And so if that's the case, the more the merrier, but I understand the work, it's, somebody's gotta do the job. But yeah, I think it sounds amazing, and I think, probably when we're talking about proposal for a future budget, maybe looking into this and allotting, you know what I mean, funding that towards, for commissioners, because you're talking about 4 days.
4 days, it's all inclusive, right? And they bring in these consultants, well, it's not consultants, because that sounds fancier than what it is, like, Sharon is a consultant, he's Cambodian, he has this story as well, like, it's people that actually have been through the system, but they do need regular people, like, community members too, that's how it works. And some people might not find a purpose in why they're there, but building community and having more community buy-in will just help the DA's office have a better case, because I'm sure it's a system, right? Who would really support this? But in terms of how much money this would save a government versus keeping people in the incarceration system, if you know anything about the incarceration system, it's a lot of money. So all they have to do is come to a peace circle and sit down and talk about their emotions, but think about it for children, right? They might not be receptive to it, because I learned that you can't keep a minor in jail or locked up for more than 90 days, so most minors will probably just be like, okay, I'll do my 90 days and I'm done. I can go back onto the streets, I can still continue doing what I'm doing, but we're trying to shift that mindset. So I'll send the video with the notes, because I think it's easier to explain, but it has worked in 6 places clearly, like Seattle, always doing great things. So yes, that's it for the meeting. No tentative closed session, and our next meeting is November 14th. We do need quorum to vote, so I do hope that you all plan to be there. And we'll have our end of year report, so just go ahead and send me any recommendations via email. And then we adjourn this meeting at 7:06 p.m.
Did you answer her question?
Oh, did we have a question? Oh, Commissioner Guadarrama. We don't adjourn. Well, we need to do a motion. Okay. Oh, no question, no question. Okay, perfect. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second. Okay, we adjourn at 7:07 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.